The following is a project of our nonprofit newsroom. Support Midcoast Morning and local community-centered journalism today by signing up to be a monthly sustaining donor at chly.ca/donate. It doesn't take much money to support local news.
Hello and welcome to Midcoast Morning. I'm Joe Pugh. A Christmas classic is going to be transformed into a live radio play free for all to attend this Saturday at VIU. The school's Malaspina Theatre will host a locally penned adaptation of It's a Wonderful Life, the 1946 film directed by Frank Capra and starring Jimmy Stewart. I had the chance to speak with some of the students who will be helping bring the story of George Bailey to the ears of a new audience.
My name is Alex. I'm a fourth-year student at VIU, doing the theater diploma and the BA in psych, and I'm also just about to graduate. And then for the radio play, I'm stage managing and directing it.
And I'm Jenna. I am a third-year theater student at VIU, and I will be doing the live sound.
You'll be doing the live sound for It's a Wonderful Life, an adaptation of the Christmas classic, I think it's fair to say, Saturday night at VIU. Can you give people an idea of what that's going to be like? Like, what is a live podcast radio play? What does it look like?
So it'll be in the Malaspina Theater lobby. We'll have the corner kind of cut off with microphones. It'll be sort of like a live studio audience, if you will, and there'll be snacks and hot chocolate, and it'll just be a warm, cozy kind of feel, and everyone's welcome to come watch. It'll be a lot of fun.
And this is something that is a bit of a sequel in some ways. Last year, A Christmas Carol, you were both involved with that production. Can you tell me about what that was like?
It was so good. So last year, Jenna and I pretty much switched roles, and Jenna was the stage manager, and then I was doing the live sound. It was just really nice. Like, you get to hang out with a small group of people and just produce this little show in just a really friendly and welcoming environment.
What makes something like A Christmas Carol, or this year It's a Wonderful Life, what is different doing something that people used to as a film or a novel as a radio play?
I think it's definitely like different from a movie or a film, because like you're just listening, and I think because you're only listening and you're not actually seeing anything, it becomes more imaginative, and you can kind of see what's happening in your head based on like what they're saying. The actors are very talented, and like they really incorporate different voices and different like enunciations, if you will. And then with the live sound, it just kind of brings a whole new world to it, and it's kind of make it what you want it to be.
What kinds of things do you do with the live sound? I'm thinking of the old-timey days of radio where people were in studios, I don't know, doing what we'd call today Foley effects, I don't know, like knocking coconuts together to make horse hooves. What kind of things are going to happen?
So last year we quite literally were knocking coconut hooves together to make sound as we walked in, and then we had bells that we were using. I played the piano very briefly. What else did we have?
We had chains. There were definitely chains. We had boxes that you were like knocking on. I really want to incorporate the gravel and like shoes this year. I think that'd be really fun. I don't know how, but it's going to happen.
What have the preparations been like, and what will they continue to be like as you lead up to the first opening lines of the show?
So the day before, we're meeting to do our read-through, which is quite last minute, but that's okay. That's how theater goes. We'll do a read-through. We'll kind of pick characters and stuff, and then we'll just kind of go for it is kind of the plan.
And I'm wondering what, maybe from your experiences last year doing this, from your experiences doing this year, whether there's like a festive mood, how the time of year contributes to making an experience out of this.
I mean, I feel like if it wasn't Christmas time, it wouldn't really work to have a Christmas story. But I think because it's so close to Christmas, everyone's kind of already in the cheery, like, Christmassy vibes. And so this kind of just adds to it, and it gives people an opportunity to come out as, like, a family or just, like, friends and, like, come hang out, have a Christmassy experience that's not on Christmas.
Everyone's excited. We dress the whole place up all Christmassy and stuff. The kids are always excited because it's past their bedtime and they get to stay up late to watch the little radio play. Everyone is welcome. We do also accept food donations that go to the food bank.
And so as you're alluding to there, this is something that people can come down to VIU. You can go, you can check it out in person. It's also a live podcast. How else can people find this or tune in if they can't make it here physically on the day?
If they can't be here physically, we do put it out on the Malaspina Theatre podcast, which is available on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. I think it's coming out on Christmas Day. Yeah.
And Alex, you've mentioned that this is like the very last thing you are doing in your VIU career. How is that feeling for you?
I'm excited. It's a fun event to be a part of, and it's definitely a good note to end on. Yeah.
What was it like? Do you have any like fond memories or highlights of doing this last year?
I think just the community that it built. Like, I was doing sound, so I was hanging out in the dressing rooms with the actors prior to the actual show. And I didn't know them very well, but we just kind of all became a group very quickly, and I felt very welcomed with them.
Is there anything else you think it's important to let people know about the production?
It's all free, other than the, like, donation part. But, like, there's no admission cost. There's no, like, the snacks are free. The event is free. You can come see it for free. And especially around Christmas time, I think that's very important because you've already spent so much money on presents and food and what have you. And it just opens it up for other people who otherwise couldn't really afford to come to the theater and have a live experience.
Well, Alex, Jenna, break a leg.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jenna Bigmore and Alex Bargava are involved in staging a locally penned live radio adaptation of It's a Wonderful Life. It's being put on Saturday evening at VIU's Malaspina Theatre. I also had the chance to speak with the theatre's technical director.
So my name's Robin Boxwell. I'm the technical director of Malaspina Theatre here at Vancouver Island University, and I'm also a stagecraft instructor, in which is, people always ask, what does a stagecraft instructor do? And I can say that in the performing arts, it's anything that you plug in, so lights and sound and staging and drapery. So I take care of all the back end and then kind of inspire the kids to use technology to improve performance in one way or the other.
And what's the story behind a live podcast, radio play, if you will, version of It's a Wonderful Life happening this Saturday?
So we really embraced, especially over COVID, the whole podcast style of relating with a different type of generation. So it's the we started with radio, and then podcast is really turned into something different and unique, and it is a style of performance. So we decided, okay, well, let's try and mix a whole bunch together. So an old school 1940s, 1950s radio play. We're going to make all of the sound Foley, like very manual, very authentic. And then we're going to do a live recording for a podcast episode, but we also want to do the live studio audience feel. So we're going to have anywhere between 30 and 50 live audience members, so we can get that feel of people appreciating Christmas, but people appreciating just being in a community working towards a really positive story.
and a story from the 1940s in a format from maybe the 1930s and 40s as well. Can you talk about maybe the synergy there?
Yeah. So I just have a personal love for what the story has to offer. It's a Wonderful Life. The world's is a little dark in many perspectives right now. And especially as a young person, I can imagine it's absolutely overwhelming. And so here we have a similar story just after the big American financial crash. The story follows a character that's going through huge trauma in his life, and how Christmas kind of offers that opportunity to say, I have to appreciate what I have. So the thankfulness, the direction the story goes in, it's very melodramatic, where it goes to the extremes of depression, but to the joys of Christmas and positive. And I think that's a message that really resonates and connects with a lot of people right now. It's going to be a beautiful journey. And in the community building aspects, what I really like is that this is the second year we've been using this particular group of this ensemble of voice actors, and then it's written by a local. Or I should say, it's not written, but it's adapted. The story is adapted by a local playwright, and who's also going to be one of the lead voices. And then we have students directing it, students doing all the tech for it, and just welcoming a community in. And it's both going to be a VIU community, but anybody from the general public is also welcome to join us. And we get quite a few audience members from off campus who really enjoy this event.
And It's a Wonderful Life is certainly one of the films that is maybe very near the peak, if not at the peak, of the sort of canon, always on television around Christmas. There are some reasons maybe related to public domain around that. But at the same time, it seems like perhaps we're living in a world where just fewer people are watching broadcast television every Christmas. Can you tell me maybe how you feel about the story's prominence and maybe the next generation's awareness of It's a Wonderful Life?
Yeah, and I think this is where the podcast aspect can really kick in, where as opposed to like way back in the day, for TV, it was destination programming. Like you had to run home at a very specific time and you watched that TV episode. And in the 40s, especially, like when the movie was premiered, I think it was premiered once and then it just disappears for 10 years. And it made a resurgence in the 60s. And then now from the 70s forward, it gets played every year. But we can bring that back with a podcast where we can easily do the same story every year, but we try and access classic stories. Last year was Christmas Carol, and then that's still on our feed. So people can listen to it anytime they want. They have the option to come participate in a live production, or if that timing just didn't work out for them. We try and be a very accessible space, and anxiety and crowd still stress a lot of people out. So if you just want to listen to a live recording at your own leisure, that's an option too, as well as the educational opportunities for students to work with modern tech and recording, as well as the old school tech, of creating the sound effects, and then working with the community to hit a goal, which is to add some Christmas cheer and to raise awareness about our student pantries. And we want to create opportunities for students to make events so that we can have people donate food to ensure that we have food security for our community.
Can you explain a little bit more about the student pantries and how it relates to the radio play?
Yeah, so I think that Christmas has a natural sense of giving, and we try and every term we at least try and do some sort of pantry refill project. Christmas just feels like it's the right giving time, especially to bring light to food security. Food's getting expensive. A lot of food security is about education. I don't want a student to feel embarrassed that they can't afford something. And so at last count, there were 6 pantries on campus, located in specific department buildings, and I know Student Union has an amazing offering. And these are public access, open places in plain view of anybody, where somebody can walk up, feel comfortable grabbing something off the shelf, and then taking it home for later consumption or having a lunch. I think it's important that people don't feel embarrassed about food security, and this just feels it's the right fit.
So the idea there, you can come, you can check out the show. It's free. No one's expecting necessarily anything of you, but you're encouraged to also help out those student pantries by bringing something, whether that's just like a money donation or a food item. Yeah,
and I wanted to be really careful about not saying ticket entry requires food, because I don't want to put economic barriers up. So we've said you will have the option to donate, but it's not an expectation. This is a completely free show. We're going to be providing some cookies and some hot chocolate, and then much like in our regular season, we've actually removed a lot of economic barriers for our shows, where we say all VIU students or anybody in our VIU community can come to shows for free. If you choose to purchase a ticket, you have that option as well. And then we're just advancing that same concept forward to food security. If you want to come see a show, no problem. You don't have to provide. But if you do have that option to provide, it would be awesome, and we'll share it with our community.
What would you say to someone to convince them to come out here on Saturday night, to maybe not just wait for the 24th to turn on CTV or CBC or whatever is playing It's a Wonderful Life, but to come check out the radio play version?
There's something fun about a live anything, be it music, be it radio play, be it theater, be it concert at the Queen's. Just being inside of a community of people that you don't necessarily always run into on a regular basis. You're going to see some familiar faces, like Nanaimo's not that big, and it's a great opportunity just to bust you out of your bubble. Every once in a while, somebody will say, man, I wish I would have had an opportunity to leave my house today. And this is going to be one of those opportunities. There's no expectations, and it's going to be our lobby event. I specifically keep between the 30 and the 50, kind of people max, because I want a really comfortable, chill environment for this kind of stuff that'll access a different type of community that might go to our main stage shows, which are around the 300 person mark, and it's. There's lots of ways to access a community, and I really enjoy these small scale things.
Anything else you'd like to let people know about the show?
We've got a podcast that it'll hit the feed, but we also throughout the year, we try and keep a relatively active channel, and it's just at Malaspina Theater on all your various podcast platforms, and then also check us out on Instagram at Malaspina Theater.
Robin, thank you so much, and break a leg Saturday.
Thank you so much.
Robin Boxwell is Technical Director of the Malaspina Theatre at Vancouver Island University. That's where you'll see Saturday at 7, a live radio adaptation of It's a Wonderful Life. The show is free and open to the public.
Midcoast Morning is made possible by the Community Radio Fund of Canada and generous listeners like you. Support and grow our nonprofit newsroom project today at chly.ca/donate with a monthly or one-time donation. With your support, we can expand Midcoast Morning from 2 to 3 original programs per week to cover local news, current affairs, and arts and culture.
Coming up on Christmas Day on the program, we'll hear a conversation taking stock of 2024 with Nanaimo Mayor Leonard Krogh. Here's a preview. This is also about the halfway mark for this current term of City Council. How would you evaluate how things have gone so far and what you're still hoping to accomplish?
Oh, look, I've mentioned some of the major projects, but there's a number of things underway that have happened that have been good for the city and positive. We can talk about the Harewood Centennial Park artificial turf fields, which are enabling literally thousands of folks, young and old in Nanaimo, to have an access to play many more hours, many more days in the year than was previously the case. We've got the 55-plus seniors games coming. We had a magnificent event to celebrate Ethan Katzberg, our Olympian, which is a wonderful role. He's a wonderful role model for young people. In terms of provincial housing, we've had to respond to and deal with the significant legislative changes involved with that, with those, how shall I say, encouragements from the province to do better, when in fact we've done quite well in terms of building housing. We've got the Heart and Hearth program, the provincial program. We're going to see housing at 1030 Old Victoria Road, the Traveller's Lodge announcement, giving people access to services, getting them off the street, and giving them and their family and this community hope that we will see improvements. We also, happily hired when I say hired, it's an RCMP decision, but the city gets to participate. Superintendent Andrew Burton, our new RCMP superintendent, replacing Lisa Fletcher, who did an amazing job. We have a new poet laureate. Oh, and of course, we have pickleball. We have the new pickleball courts at Devon. There is a happy event, another accomplishment. And the updates at Westwood Lake, and I hesitate to describe it as simply as updates, but significant improvements and more to come. And if you look around the community, multiple housing projects underway, literally in terms of nails being hammered, or I guess nail gunned into 2x4s, foundations being poured, proposals before council, proposals working their way through our planning and development services department. The city is doing very well in many respects, except, and I say except, when we come back to the issues surrounding the street disorder. And that's something, and I've been accused of not taking responsibility, evading responsibility. The solutions for it are provincial and federal, whether it's bail reform in the federal level, to ensure that people who are committing repeat crimes are held in custody pending disposition, and all the other things that go with it. But apart from that, there's lots to celebrate in Nanaimo. We're seeing the work done in Commercial Street. Frustrating, I know, for local businesses until it's completed, but once that portion of the work is completed and the others carried out to the long-term plan, you're going to see a wonderful revitalized downtown. We've got the old A&B Sound building nearly completed. To come back to the housing issue, as I said, multiple units across the city, but just in the downtown core alone, you've got the magnificent building going up on the old TELUS site, the Caledonian Clinic site. Last night, Council gave approval to the works for between Chapel and Skinner, a wonderful new proposal. Significant number of rental units, including, I think it's 6 two-bedroom townhouses. So, as I say, there's lots to be happy about, and I think that's happening because you've had a stable council, and I say this not about myself, but about the council, a stable council that does its homework. We may not always agree, and indeed often do disagree, and often I'm in a minority position on various votes, and I'm okay with that. But it's a council that functions without the kind of rancor that exists in other communities, and it's also prepared to take on challenges and not always do what is the popular thing. And in politics, it's lovely if the popular thing is also the best thing, but that's not often the case.
In terms of major capital projects for the city of Nanaimo, there are a number on the horizon as potentialities: South End Community Center, a new RCMP detachment, a waterfront walkway, and of course the Public Works Yard. How do you envision getting some of those across the finish line, or even bringing them as options to ask the voters whether they want to get them across the finish line in the next 2 years?
The alternative approval process is designed for capital projects like the improvements to the Labio Works Yard. And I would be less than honest if I didn't say I was extremely disappointed that the alternate approval process didn't succeed, that there were a number of people who believed it wasn't either necessary or were convinced it wasn't necessary. It was a need to, not a nice to have, in my view. That remains my position. Council will receive a report in the new year from staff about what the alternatives are for us in a practical way to deal with it. But you're quite right about the other projects. A South End Community Centre, long overdue, much deserved, and much needed. The pressure on our recreational facilities is substantial. And this isn't unusual. On one hand, you've got some taxpayers saying, oh, we don't want to spend any money, we don't want to borrow any money, and yet you've got a whole bunch of other taxpayers, so to speak, or ratepayers, citizens who are saying, oh, golly, we need these facilities. The reality is the RCMP building is outlived its usefulness in terms of its size and functionality. A waterfront walkway has been on the dream and wish list for many people in this community for a very long time. It would be a wonderful amenity, both from a recreational perspective, but also in terms of its attraction for tourists. Imagine being able to walk from Departure Bay all the way to downtown in safety and security along our amazing waterfront. That's a pretty important thing. You're probably looking at referenda on those, though, because referendums are designed to deal with, generally speaking, things that are important to the community, but maybe not absolutely necessary in the sense that if you need a bridge across a river, that's a necessity if you can't get across the river. I'm using a simplistic example. But in terms of a walkway across a river, when you already have a bridge, a walkway that connects two paths, that arguably is a nice to have. Maybe you just force people to walk across the sidewalk on the bridge. Again, a simplistic example. And many might see the waterfront walkway as a nice to have, but not a need to have. I think it's a nice to have. I wouldn't put it in the same category as the Works Yard, or the police station, or the South End Community Centre, though. But again, arguably those are nice to haves as well. But the AAP process was used for the fire station, which everyone's very happy to have, I'm sure. And if we have any kind of a disaster, and those disasters are happening with increased frequency around us, you only have to look at the slides on the Sea to Sky Highway the other day, the loss of life, the damage from windstorms, tide, all those kinds of issues. We need to have a safe, secure place for our workers to maintain our equipment, so that in the event of a disaster, we can respond quickly and appropriately. And we need to maintain our infrastructure so we don't end up with a Calgary mess. We were just very lucky with the blowout of the water pipes on Bowen Road a few years ago, which encouraged everyone, I think, to recognize the importance of the work that's been done with the Midtown water supply.
Nanaimo Mayor Leonard Krogh speaking with me in the CHLY studio. You can hear more on the program on Christmas Day. That's our show for the day. Thank you for joining me. I'm Joe Pugh, host and producer of Midcoast Morning. Jesse Woodward is our executive producer, and RB Frew is our technical advisor. You can sign up for CHLY's newsletter at chly.ca/subscribe for updates from our nonprofit newsroom and more. Our theme song is First One by local Nanaimo band Waste Management. If you have a story you'd like us to cover, email us at news@chly.ca. That's all for now. I'll talk to you on another Midcoast Morning.